Okay, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to call this meeting to order. We're going to just start off with a short prayer. Thank you, Father, once again today for all your many blessings in our area here, Father. I just want to start out by please bless the area of Cherry Grove. They went through some devastation. The biggest thing was that they lost a church. Be with that church community today as they give them peace, Father. Give this council wisdom today. I'd like to pray safety on our men and ladies that are working here at the MD, and bring us some rain, Father, in your name. Amen. All right, we have an agenda before us. Just wondering if there's any additions to the agenda.
Yes, Mr. Reeve, from administration under closed session 12.3, Kinnessoo Ridge. And that'll be under FOIP section 25.
Thank you. Any other additions? Yes, Deputy Reeve Fadeev.
Yeah, I don't know where to put this under, but I like the administration to come back with a basic rundown on what a fire station would look like at Cherry Grove, and possible some water in there as well. So I don't know what should put that under emergent or under my reports.
Mr. Reeve, I would suggest that that be added under 9.2.8 under environmental protective services, and we'll just, for today's purposes, call it the Cherry Grove Fire Hall.
Thank you.
Any other gentlemen and men? All right, I'll need a motion to adopt the agenda as amended.
I'll make a motion to adopt the agenda.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Slipchuk, for making that motion. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. That's carried, thank you. I'm looking for the adoption of the minutes of regular meeting of Council April 11th. Thank you, Councillor Swaggart, for making that motion. Any discussion on that? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. That's carried, thank you. Also looking for the committee meeting of council on April 18th. Looking for a motion. Yes, thank you, Councillor Crick, for making that motion. The council approves the adoption of the minutes of April 18, 2023 Committee of the Whole meeting as presented. Any discussion on this? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. That's carried, thank you. Okay, we're going to go on to the development applications 7.1.
Good morning.
Hey, good morning.
This is Development Permit Application 2023-D-048 for Mike and Dana Petrock. The applicant is applying to construct an addition to an existing shop for a secondary suite. The property is located in the Aspen Grove Estates multi-lot subdivision, half a mile north of Highway 55 and Range Road 435 intersection. Adjacent properties are residential parcels. The applicant is applying to construct a 20 by 36 addition to an existing shop for a secondary suite. The suite contains one bedroom, one bathroom, and one kitchen/living room, and will be 720 square feet. This conforms to Section 59 for secondary suites. Adjacent landowner letters were sent out on April 11th, 2023, and we received no response. Recommendation for development application 2023-D-048 is approve the request for an addition to an existing shop for a secondary suite within Northeast 1963-3 west of the 4th Meridian as a discretionary use as per Part 6, Section 59 of the General Regulations and Part 7, Section 72.2 of the Land Use Bylaw with the following conditions. The development to be located as per the minimum setbacks in the country residential district, CR1. Front yard is 25 feet, side and rear yards 19.7 feet. An approved building permit is required as per the Safety Codes Act. Applicable electrical, gas, plumbing, and sewer permits are required as per the Alberta Safety Codes Act. The suite shall be subordinate to the accessory building use when located within an accessory building. The suite shall contain up to 4 rooms. The suite shall have a minimum floor area of 500 square feet and a maximum floor area of 1,076 square feet. Building waste materials shall be contained on-site in a waste bin or covered/enclosed trailer as per Section 2 of the Consolidated Public Safety Bylaw number 1812.
Thank you. Yes, Counselor Swaggart.
Thanks, Mr. Reeve. I'll make the motion to approve that permit.
Okay, thank you, Counselor Swaggart, for making a motion on behalf of council that council approves development permit application number 2023D048 for additional to existing shop for secondary suite within Northeast 1963-3 west of the 4th M as discretionary use pursuant to Part 6, Section 59 of the General Regulations and Part 7, Section 72.2 of the Land Use Bylaw for Mike and Dana Petrock as per the recommendation presented. Any discussion on this, gentlemen? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. That's carried. Thank you. On to 7.2.
This is Development Permit Application 2023-D-053 for Bear Trap Recreational Company Limited. The applicant is applying for an intensive recreation use for a campground. The property is located on the east shore of Bear Trap Lake on Range Road 443. Adjacent properties are residential parcels, quarter section remnants, and crown land. Administration was made aware of 2 accessory buildings constructed on the site without permits, and an investigation was initiated. The ownership group was contacted, and they would like to bring the lands into compliance with this proposed use. The ownership group would like to obtain a permit for an intensive recreation use for a family campground to allow for the continued use of this property and allow for the construction of additional buildings. These lands have a permitted cabin, 4 unpermitted accessory buildings, and 10 camping sites. This proposal includes the development of 6 additional accessory buildings less than 300 square feet in area and less than 14 feet in height. They are not asking for additional RV spots and would like 10 RVs to be allowed on the site at a time. Year-round residential living will not be permitted. Site access, driveway, and parking are existing, and maintenance will be at the discretion of the ownership group. Section 35 of the Land Use Bylaw refers to a 1,000-foot setback between campgrounds and any country residential multi-lot subdivisions. There are 5 residential zoned parcels west of the proposed campground. Adjacent landowner letters were sent out on April 12, 2023, and we have not received any response. A referral was sent to the MD Infrastructure Services Department, and no concerns were reported. Recommendation for development application 2023-D-053 is approve the request for an intensive recreation use for a campground within Northwest 2264 west of the 4th as a discretionary use as per Part 6, Section 35 of the General Regulations and Part 7, Section 69.2 of the Land Use Bylaw with the following conditions. No more than 10 recreational vehicles shall be on site at a time, shall comply with Section 8 for the Consolidated Public Safety Bylaw number 1812 regarding noise control. Building waste materials shall be contained on site in a waste bin or covered enclosed trailer as per Section 2 of the Consolidated Public Safety Bylaw number 1812. As per Section 69.6 of the Land Use Bylaw number 1667, the minimum setback shall be front yard 125 feet from the center line of the public road, rear and side yard 19.7 feet. As per section 41.3, a minimum building setback of 30 meters is required from the high water mark of a water body to which the Crown claims ownership. 41.5, a minimum building setback of 30 meters is required from the top or bottom of an escarpment slope or any other steep slope where the grade exceeds 15% unless the development authority is satisfied by a submission of a geotechnical engineer prepared by a professional engineer that a lesser setback is warranted. Applicable electrical, gas, plumbing, and sewer permits are required as per the Alberta Safety Codes Act. Approved building permits are required as per the Safety Codes Act for any building over 150 square feet or if life safety is involved.
Yeah, that was a long one. Good job. Looking for a motion, yes?
I'll make a motion to approve this permit. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Crick, for making a motion on behalf of council. The council approves development permit application number 2023D053 for intensive recreation use for campground within Northwest 2264th west of the 4th Ave as discretionary use pursuant to Part 6, Section 35 of the General Regulations and Part 7, Section 69.2 of the Land Use Bylaw for Bear Trap Recreational Company Limited as per the recommendation presented. Any discussion, gentlemen, on this motion? Yes, Deputy Reeve Fadeev.
On the land map there, going to the, I guess, west side of the lots that are there. So there's homes there already.
Through the Reeve to Deputy Reeve Fadeev, those are camping spots.
So to the west are the camping spots, or those?
Yeah. The larger brown square is the cabin, and the other green with squares in them are the camping spots.
But then just where it says N on that side?
Yeah.
Yeah, like in the subdivisions?
Yes.
Those are homes there?
Homes, cabins,
Okay.
yeah.
In light of all this, all the fires we have and everything else, is there any concerns on your part with a fire smart zoning or kind of usage with that? Because if they're going to have
The
bonfires
applicants-
and all that stuff
Yeah,
is.
the applicants have provided a fire smart addendum to their proposal.
Okay. And all the neighbors are okay with that then? And all the neighbors are okay with that?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Deputy Reeve, any other discussion? Yes, Councillor Swagger.
Is there two buildings that are non-conforming that haven't got permits? And are they going to get permits before this is approved?
They will have to get permits after the approve. They need a development permit first that will allow these uses on the property. So they will apply for the outstanding building permits once this development permit is approved.
Okay.
Thank you, Councillor. Yes, Deputy Reeve.
Yeah, just
Fadeev.
one more question in regards to the MRs and ERs in regards to this. Is there an MR and ER on this lake?
Not at this location.
Not at this location? And just a silly question, but why is that?
This was subdivided off previously before these other lots were subdivided off. It was not a requirement to subdivide this fragmented parcel off.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions,
Yeah,
gentlemen?
Mr.
Yes,
Reeve, so
Councillor
once
Swagger.
they're given this, these permissions, how long do they have to get those other buildings up to code or whatever, the existing ones?
As soon as possible. They
Well, I know,
have been
but
working with us. They actually had submitted the plans already, but because we didn't want to take any of their application money, their non-refundable application fees, before this was approved,
Okay, so there's no dates or whatever, so they
no
could-
dates. We could put a date on it,
Well,
but
I can see if this was approved and they'd just go ahead and everyone else would start building their whatever and,
Yeah.
anyway, you're looking after it, so.
if they don't comply, we do have stop work orders that we could put on through the Safety Codes Act.
Okay, thank you.
I guess obviously if they're already talking with them to do it, they're not going to be going, right? So,
Yeah.
any other discussion, gentlemen? Okay, seeing none, I'll call for the vote. That's carried, thank you. On to 7.3, please.
This is development application 2023-D-058 for Russ Brevard. The applicant is applying for a major home business for the import and sale of mini trucks. The property is located east of Range Road 432A and Township Road 642A intersection on the northwest shore of Ethel Lake. Adjacent properties are residential parcels and a quarter section remnants. The applicant would like to operate a major home business out of an existing shop. They would like to import mini trucks from Japan, modify them with body lifts, all-terrain tires, and track kits, and sell them. They would operate from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m., but site visits will be by appointment only. Russ is the only employee of the business. Adjacent landowner letters were sent out on April 18th, 2023, and we received no response. Recommendation for development application 2023-D-058 is approve the request for a major home business for an imported mini truck sale business within Northeast 1563-4 west of the 4th Meridian as a discretionary use as per Part 6, Section 47 of the General Regulations and Part 7, Section 73.2 of the Land Use Bylaw with the following conditions. As per Section 47.3, major home business, a major home business may utilize accessory buildings while still maintaining the residential use as the primary use on the site. The home business may employ up to 3 persons who do not live on the site or within the primary residence. The home business may not generate traffic uncharacteristic to the area. All required parking must be on site. Outdoor storage of materials, good, or equipment on the site shall be directly related to the business and at the discretion of the Development Authority may require screening or fencing. The display or placement of signs on the premises of a home business shall be restricted to one identification sign no larger than 1 square meter in area and may be indirectly illuminated. And we do have a picture of a mini truck.
Right on. That's pretty cool. All right, just looking for a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve this permit.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Slipchuk, for making a motion on behalf of council that council approves development permit application number 2023D-058 for a major home business for an import and sale of mini truck business within Northeast 1564-3 west of the 4th M as discretionary use pursuant to Part 6, Section 47 of the General Regulations and Part 7, Section 72.2 of the Land Use Bylaw for Russell and Darlene Rivard as per the recommendations presented. Any discussion on this? Yes, Councillor Swigert.
Yeah, I'm not totally against it. I think it's a neat thing to do. I just wish we had more availability to commercial subdivisions or industrial subdivisions where you could keep this stuff together. It's great the guy's doing this as an entrepreneur. Just wish there was an area where he could actually do it, and he already owned the land and it was a subdivision. But you know what I'm getting at, right? You got these things popping up everywhere, and it'd be nice if there was kind of one area where. Anyway, it's not, so I'm okay with it.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion? Okay, seeing none, I'll call for the vote. That's carried. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Yeah, great job. Have a great day.
You too.
Thank you. On to number 8, subdivision applications, 8.1.
Good morning.
Morning.
Subdivision application 2023-S-005. Administration has received and is presenting subdivision application 2023-S-005 for council consideration, where the applicant is proposing to subdivide a fragmented 80-acre parcel from agricultural quarter section, Southeast 1363-5 West, as shown on the map attached as Appendix A. Notification of the proposed subdivision was mailed to referral agencies and adjacent landowners with a deadline of April 3rd to submit concerns to be heard at the May 9th council meeting. No concerns have been received regarding this application. The application meets all conditions of the Municipal Government Act, subdivision and development regulations, and the Lower Athabasca Regional Plan, Municipal Development Plan, and the Land Use Bylaw. Therefore, we recommend it be approved as per conditions. Legal and physical access to the parcel and remnant. If the subdivision is registered through a plan of survey, that the owner-developer dedicate to the Municipal District of Bonnyville a 17-foot strip of land for road widening along the entire frontage of the west and a portion of the north side proposed, and the east and south side of remnant parcels to be registered by separate road plan. If the subdivision is registered by descriptive plan, the owner-developer enter into a land acquisition agreement with the MD of Bonnyville for a 17-foot strip wide of land for road widening along the entire frontage of the west and a portion of the north side of proposed and east and south side of remnant parcels to be registered by caveat, and to have outstanding taxes paid in full.
Okay, thank you. Looking for a motion? Yes? Thank you, Councillor Swager, for making a motion. On behalf of council, the council approves subdivision application 2023S005 to subdivide an 88-acre fragmented portion from an agricultural quarter section southeast 1363-5 west of 4th M for Martin and Susanna Day as per the conditions presented. Any discussion on this motion? Okay, I'm seeing none. I'll call for the vote. That's carried. Thank you. On to 8.2, please.
Application number 2023-S-006. The administration has received and is presenting subdivision application 2023-006 for council consideration, where the applicant is proposing to subdivide a 10-acre parcel from agricultural quarter section northeast 31-63-5 west of 4, as shown on the map. Notification of the proposed subdivision was mailed to referral agencies and adjacent landowners with a deadline of April 13th to submit concerns to be considered at the May 9th council meeting. No concerns have been received regarding this application. Can I get you to go to the land map, please, the next map? Okay. The application meets all conditions of the Municipal Government Act, subdivision and development regulations, and the Lower Athabasca Regional Plan, Municipal Development Plan, and the Land Use Bylaw. Therefore, we recommend it be approved as per conditions. Number 1, legal and physical access to proposed parcels and remnant. If registered by a plan of survey, a 17-foot strip of land for future road widening along the entire frontage of the east side of proposed and north and east remnant parcels to be registered by separate road plan. If registered by descriptive plan, the landowner shall enter into a land acquisition agreement for a 17-foot strip of land for future road widening along the entire frontage of the east side of the proposed parcel and both the east and north sides of the remnant parcel be registered by caveat. Taxes to be paid in full. I just want to draw your attention, the subdivision is moved slightly to the north to allow access to the parcel from the roadway that is there. They will have to construct a portion of the road to gain access to the parcel. I believe that when TNU went out there to do their searches on it or recommendations on it, they did recommend that approximately 100 meters of road would need to be constructed.
Is that a forest road, like east and west the whole way, or is
It is,
that actual? That's actual, right?
that is an actual road. No, it would be a forest road that would come over to,
So that's why they're asked, because we don't have a roadway there.
We wouldn't have a requirement to develop that road to the north
Yeah,
because it comes up to the water body.
Yeah.
So they will have to construct a portion of it to allow access to the remnant parcel as well as to the proposed parcel. And we're going to have them move the subdivision 66 feet from that south line
yep,
so that they have access to the remnant that way as well as to
The other way.
proposed. Yeah.
okay. All right, just looking for a motion, gentlemen.
I'll make a
Oh.
motion to,
Okay, go ahead. Thank you, Councillor Slipchik, for making a motion on behalf of council that council approves subdivision application 2023S006 to subdivide a 10-acre parcel from agricultural quarter section northeast 3163-5 west of the 4th M for Alan and Tammy Brundage as per the conditions presented. Any discussion on this motion? Councillor Swaggart?
Yeah, Mr. Reeve, thanks. You'd asked a little bit about the location there, so I'm just curious, because I don't really know that area though, but that road, the Range Road does not go to the quarter, or to the corner of that quarter section?
The range road goes to the quarter line, but the road allowance continues north. In order for them to have access to the remnant parcel as well as to proposed parcel, a portion of that Range Road 55 would need to be constructed north to grant access to both of those.
Okay, and then that, the 10-acre parcel, it doesn't look like it lines up with the quarter on the south, does it, or no?
No, it has to
No.
move 66 feet north
And
to
that's what you were
create a road
talking about?
allowance.
That's what I was talking about, yeah.
Okay.
See that, the green bottom line, if you were to go west, that would hit the LaCory North. So where Rocky Top is, if you went 41 north, and when you turn, that's the same road all the way through.
Okay,
So there's a wicked corner just to the west there, that first wicked corner on our LaCory North Road. So that's probably, they can't come in, and then you gotta cross a creek there. So there's no other roads that go there, yeah.
thank you, thanks.
Okay, any other discussion on this, gentlemen? Or any other questions? Okay, seeing none, I'll call for the vote. That's carried, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, have a great day.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Let's go to 9.2.1. Environmental and Protective Services. Waste and Recycling Report.
Good morning, Council.
Morning.
Morning.
I'm here to present the 2022 Waste and Recycling Reports for the Waste Services Department. We'll start with the waste report first. You all have a copy of that. We have 155 waste bins placed around the MD for residential waste drop-off and use at MD campgrounds, shops, and office buildings. In 2022, the MD of Bonnyville disposed of 3,241.93 tons of Class 2 household waste for a total cost of $325,061.59. Of that, $192,229.59 was for tipping fees through the Beaver River Regional Waste Management Commission, where we are charged $41.35 per ton for tipping at the Thorhill landfill and $13.15 per ton for commission fees, which primarily go toward funding equipment repair and replacement. Our hauling rate was $34.35 per ton from January through June, and as of July 1st, when the new haul contract was initiated, our rate went up to $50.49 per ton. This brought our total hauling fees to $132,832 for the year of 2022. 97.6% of this waste collected by our front load trucks was hauled to the transfer bins called Trans Stores located at 5 of our landfill sites, while the remaining 2.4% was hauled to the transfer stations at the Bonnyville and Cold Lake landfills during haul contractor downtime and for our campground waste that is collected during camping season. Over the course of the last haul contract and this current one, it is most economical for us to use the TransStore bins at our landfills for transferring our waste. Under this new contract, with the increased hauling rate, it is costing us $104.99 per ton whereas if we were hauling to the town of Bonnyville or City of Cold Lake transfer stations, we'd be charged $25 to $45 more per ton. This equates to a minimum of a $76,000 per year savings by maintaining our current practice. Our 30-yard hauling costs were on par with the previous year and still down roughly $5,000 from peak during the pandemic. 30-yard bins are currently hauled from the Shopyard, Mirror Lake Landfill, and Fort Kent Landfill to the LaCorey Landfill. Landfill visits remain fairly consistent year over year, down slightly from the pandemic peak year of 2020. Moving on to the 2022 annual recycling report, we have 138 bins for recyclables placed around the MD for cardboard, plastic, paper, tin cans, glass, and compost. In 2022, we recycled 137.8 tons of cardboard, 17.6 tons of plastic, 22.7 tons of paper, and 5.8 tons of tin cans. All of these materials are hauled to the City of Cold Lake Recycling Center, where we are charged $25 per ton for the materials. Prior to 2020, we were hauling these materials, as well as twine, to a commercial entity in Cold Lake. Glass and compost are collected and handled internally, with glass going to a bunker at the LaCorey landfill to be crushed along with concrete, and compost going to the Ardmore landfill, where it is passively composted for future landfill reclamation projects. Metal is collected from all landfill sites and has generated us some revenue over the past 2 years, in large part thanks to the increased prices in the metal markets. Used oil and used oil products continue to be collected from Ardmore, LaCorey, Therian, and Goodridge landfills, as well as the Public Works shop. Electronics, paint, and household hazardous waste are collected at all 7 landfills, sorted, and hauled back to the yard to keep our landfills neat and tidy. Electronics are hauled to Techno Trash in Tabor, while paint and household hazardous waste are hauled to DBS Environmental in Lethbridge. Tires are collected at each of the landfill sites and collected on an as-needed basis by Liberty Tire. There are no costs or rebates involved in the tire program, although we have received 5 grants over the past 10 years to construct tire marshalling areas at different landfills. Propane tanks are accepted at no charge at all MD landfills, but yet we end up finding dozens left for us at bin sites. We had switched to a company called Rapid Gas on recommendation from a few other municipalities, as they were paying for used tanks, but unfortunately they were purchased by tank traders in the fall, and thus we will be back to a 0 rebate structure for 2023. In 2022, we only rolled 18 grain bags, as the 2021 crop year was not as good as prior years. But of note, we have rolled over 50,000 kilograms of grain bags for 247 bales in the 5 years since we started the grain bag recycling program. Prior to the Ag Plastics Recycling Pilot Program, beginning in the fall of 2019, we shipped baler twine to a commercial recycler in Cold Lake, along with our household recyclables. This came with extra hauling and tipping fees during those years. Since the pilot program began, baler twine usage has decreased significantly in the area, and as such, we have stockpiled roughly only 80 bags of clean twine over the past 2 years. The mattress recycling program has remained strong with steadily increasing numbers during the 6 years of the program. The cost of the program in the present still remains significantly less expensive than the long-term implications of landfilling these 5,300 plus mattresses. The economic benefit to this program is, when using conservative numbers by industry standards, we are still saving a net minimum of $3,000 per C-can of mattresses by having them shipped to Tabor for recycling, which saves the MD a minimum $39,000 in the net cost of landfilling per year. The environmental benefit to this program is that we are doing our part to stimulate a circular economy, because on average, 90% of every mattress recycled is turned into new products. The net cost of recycling in 2022 totaled $27,132.37. This amount reflected the cost of all recycling and shipping done by third parties and does not reflect the management and internal costs of operating these programs. That concludes the 2022 annual waste and recycling reports.
Thank you for that. Any questions, or anyone like to make a motion to, except for, yeah?
Good job, Rod.
Thank
I'll
you.
make the motion to accept the report.
All right, thank you, Councillor it says Slipchick, but it's Swaggart. Thank you, Councillor Swaggart, for making a motion on behalf of council, that council accepts the Waste Services 2022 Annual Waste and Recycling Report as information. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote.
Didn't pass?
Nice. You, Denied, no. Carried, have a great day. All right, we're on to 9.2.2, Emergency Services 2023 first quarterly report. Morning, Louis.
Good morning, Council. Presenting to you this morning, Emergency Services first quarterly report. Looking for the documents to be accepted as information. So I've just included a bit of a summary on the emergency services that we have in our area, just a brief summary, as well as a final information on how we're doing with emergency services and emergency management. Starting with the Bonnyville Regional Fire Authority. The BRFA provides fire services to the MD through 8 fire stations. During the first quarter, these numbers came directly from the BRFA. They responded to 16 fires, 50 motor vehicle collisions, and 96 other calls that don't fit into either category. Something like that could be a lift assist for EMS, maybe a confined rescue, possibly something to do with carbon monoxide or some kind of an odor. So those are the kinds of things that wouldn't fit into those types of fire or accident type calls. And they have 170 volunteers on strength throughout the MD. Additionally, the BRFA provides emergency services to the MD of Bonnyville through EMS Hall located in Bonnyville. During the first quarter of 2023, they responded to 661 calls for service, did 270 patient transfers, and that includes between Edmonton, Bonnyville, Cold Lake, and other area hospitals as well. And they also have between 35 and 40 advanced and primary care paramedics on staff serving the community. Through the 911 service and fire dispatching, they provide 911 service and fire dispatching to the town of Bonnyville, county of St. Paul, Smoky Lake, Cold Lake, Cahiwin Cree Nation, Buffalo Lake, and Elizabeth Métis Settlement. During the first quarter of 2023, the 911 center answered 6,885 911 calls. And it's one of only 20 PSAP, or public safety answering points, throughout the province. In partnership with the BRFA, the MD was awarded a grant for $4,453 to advance fire services. This was to provide training to their staff. The request was for well more than that. It was $54,000, but this is what we were awarded. I guess there's lots of hands at the table, and you get what you get. Fire permit season commences on March the 1st, 2023, and will expire in October of 31st of 2023. So we're into that, obviously into that process right now. Carrying on with policing. Policing services on the MD are provided by 2 detachments, Cold Lake and Bonnyville Detachment respectively. These detachments provide policing to the following communities, listed there: Cold Lake, Bonnyville, Cold Lake First Nation, MD of Bonnyville, Cahiwin, Elizabeth Métis Settlement, Glendon. Bonnyville RCMP detachment is serviced by 21 uniformed officers and several support staff, including guards, matrons, administrative support, victim services, and so on. During the first 3 months of 2023, Bonnyville detachment responded to 2,052 calls for service. They have on strength a marine patrol vessel, a UTV and ATV. They've got snow machines and several patrol vehicles. Bonnyville RCMP is led by Staff Sergeant Sarah Park. Cold Lake Detachment is serviced by 33 uniformed officers, so a little bit bigger. Several support staff, including guards, matrons, the same ancillary support staff, victim services, and so on. During the first 3 months of '23, Cold Lake Detachment responded to just over 2,500 calls for service. And they share similar equipment with the, they don't share it, but they have the similar type of equipment that the Bonnyville Detachment has as well. And Cold Lake Detachment is led by Staff Sergeant Wes Benz-Miller. On the emergency management side, we're hosting an interagency exercises following partnership with the BRFA. A scenario will involve a simulated wildfire in the Crane Lake area and will be funded through a grant totaling $15,060. Evergreen Estates has also been identified as a community in need of vegetation control. We've got some standing deadfall, lots of not fire smart areas in that area. So we've got to do some mitigation there as well. We've obtained a grant, we had obtained a grant, excuse me, for $31,000 to address the deadfall. Unfortunately, some of that was found to be within the Alberta Parks area, so we were not able to actually deal with deadfall and those kinds of things in Alberta Parks. That's their purview. So due to that confusion, we've applied for a new grant, and we're hoping to see that approved for mitigation this fall. In terms of emergency management, in-house, working diligently towards getting our staff trained. That's one of the biggest areas that we're focusing on right now. We've trained approximately 45 staff in basic emergency management, 50 in ICS 100, 25 in ICS 200, and 11 in ICS 300. We've also had our general managers, with one exception. They're obviously very busy people and can't attend all training. We've got them trained, all except for one trained up to 300, and we've got 400 just around the corner as well. Unfortunately, with some of this training, you do have to have a certain amount of time in each category before you can move on to the next level of training. For example, ICS 200, between 200 and 300, you have to have 6 months of time with that 200 training before they'll kick it up to the 300 level. So that's adding to the delays a little bit. We're obviously into fire season right now too, and some of that training is, from an instructor standpoint, is far less available throughout the summer because some of those people are engaged in actually actively fighting wildfires. And any questions from council?
Yes, Councillor Swire.
Thanks, Mr. Reeve. Are the RCMP detachments fully staffed now? Do you know?
Unfortunately, we were not able to meet with our RCMP counterparts this month. It's a question we typically cover with them when we do have that monthly meeting. I would suggest that they are not. That's anecdotal information, but very rarely do we have a detachment of that size with anything less than 3 or 4 vacancies at any given time, or even more. So I would suggest.
Mr. Reeve, I think the prior meeting, the Cold Lake were 3 short, 3 staff members short.
Thank you.
I just want to mention, like, these numbers, like you give 2,509 calls for the 3 months. Like, that's 28 calls a day they're handling. Like, that shows how busy they are. Like, Bonville's handling 22 calls a day. Like, just so people realize, like, how busy they are and how much they're doing for our communities, keep us safe. That's all. I just wanted to make comment on those numbers. That's crazy.
Okay, thank you, guys. Deputy Reeve.
Mr. Godolphy, thank you for taking the job up as DEM. Unfortunately, you got a little bit of a exercise on that a few days ago. I know a couple of years ago we had some communication issues with the drowning and all that stuff. This being your first, I guess, run at it. How are the lines of communication with the RCMP and BRFA and all that going? And I guess Cold Lake First Nations Fire Squad, how did that all look in your aspect? And just because people are asking me, and I know it will be nice to address that.
Thank you. Through the Reeve, Deputy Reeve today. You know, there's always room for improvement. In this particular case, I was not notified through the BRFA or the RCMP that there was an active fire. Now, in fairness, that fire was contained to Cold Lake First Nation, and they'd been hitting it for a couple of hours with some success. That being said, I have contacted Fire Chief Haney, and we've established a protocol for that. shortly after the event. So I'm hopeful that that will improve in the future. Yes.
Awesome, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? So what do you think went wrong there, then?
Well, frankly, you know, I have to own some of this myself. Mr. Reeve, I did not establish that protocol. I sort of made the assumption that I would be called if there was a fire of any significance, and typically that's how it has worked sort of in the past, is I'll sort of hear about it, but that being said, that's not going to be good enough for us in this current environment that we find ourselves in, which is why I found the need to contact the fire chief and make a formal process, and we're actually going to put it on paper, and that's going to be up for review today. As a matter of fact, you'll have it today to firm that up and make sure that it's acting the way that it should be. I believe I would have been notified immediately if this was in our area. It was not in our area. I want to be clear about that. It was in an outside community, and they'd been you know, hitting it pretty hard for a few hours, as I said, and sort of containing it. And it was not the BRFA that was actively dealing with that fire.
Yeah.
It was Cold Lake First Nation that was dealing with it, along with support from, I believe they called SRD.
Yeah.
But that never came to fruition because the planes were busy in other areas. And so there was a little bit of stress, I would say, at the beginning of that.
Yeah.
I was in contact with the Deputy Dem for Cold Lake First Nation right away, made contact with them, got information on where the fire was, how it was behaving, where it was traveling to. You know, we did not activate the ECC because at the time, as I said, the fire was sort of, you know, it was understood how it was going, and it was in a particular area, but we certainly had all the residents that were at risk within the MD. We had them identified. We had a list, and we were ready to execute an evacuation if that was needed at a moment's notice, and that's why we did send out the 1 hour alert, just letting people know. So it was a good, I don't want to say a test run, because it, you know, it could have gone a different way. It went well in our favor. It was in an area that was very swampy.
Yeah, I know the area there, yeah.
Yeah, so there was, but fires behave oddly sometimes, and it is what it is. So in this case, it worked out well, and I think we would have been okay had things gone sideways, but we're going to tighten things up.
Right on, thank you for that. Yes, Deputy Reeve?
Yeah, I know that, you know, that BRFA has MOUs with some of the regional partners in that. I'm just wondering if some of the wording in there, you know, should be changed as far as notification and all that stuff when in a case like that. So, but I don't know what that MOU looks like, but I think it's, like you said, it was a run. I'm glad we learned from it, and I think something we could change a couple things on for sure.
Thank you. It's true that, I mean, so there's fire agreements and fire MOUs, and then there's also emergency management agreements and MOUs that you enter into. Those are two different things. So as a community, it's my job as the DEM to formalize those agreements in terms of things like equipment, even public works equipment, capabilities of certain communities and our neighboring partners. So that's my role to do that. And then on the fire side, you know, the BRFA handles their agreements, how they handle them, or their MOUs, how they handle them. But I'll be looking forward to talking to the chief later on this afternoon and formalizing our process.
Awesome. Any other comments or any other discussion? Okay, seeing none, I'll, did someone make a motion on that? I need a motion. Yes, Deputy Reeve Fadeo, thank you for making a motion on behalf of council. The council accepts the Emergency Services 2023 first quarterly report as information. Any discussion on this motion? Seeing none, I'm going to call for the vote. That's carried. I think we're going to just take a break here before our delegations come in. So let's take a break till 10 o'clock here. Hey, welcome back. We have a delegation this morning, Lakeland Connect. Welcome, ladies.
Hello.
Go ahead.
All right.
No notes or anything. Oh, Kenina.
we're just-
Look at that.
Yeah, Al and I are sporting the Oilers colors today. So there we go. Thanks for having us. We're talking about RibFest today, looking for a sponsorship towards RibFest. And I wanted to start it off by explaining how RibFest came to Lakeland Connect. So it was held the first time in 2021 and then again in 2022. And it was, like RibFest itself is similar to a concert. So you have those 4 rib vendors and they go to a different town, different cities throughout all of Canada. And then promoters will bring them into their community, much like a concert, and they shape a festival around those 4 rib vendors. So last year and the year before, it was hosted by a man out of Fort McMurray. They weren't happy with how he executed things as he wasn't local, so they shopped around and found us and asked us if we would host RibFest. So that's how it landed on Lakeland Connect's table. So the plan behind RibFest this year is to make it as local as possible, because the biggest feedback we heard from the previous 2 years, like why people weren't happy and why RibFest themselves weren't happy, was because it wasn't localized. So much like a concert, you have those 4 things that's bringing people in to eat some ribs and have fun, but we want to make the festival all about the local community groups, the local businesses, and nonprofits in our area, and try to tie everything into that. So one of those elements is a small business vendors market that we're going to be hosting along with Community Futures. We hope to get at minimum 20 businesses a part of that business market, so people can come shop and see what great local businesses we have in the area. This will be similar to a farmer's market, but any business is open to get a table there. We've reduced the price to $150 per booth to make it as affordable as possible, but also after discussions with Extreme Mudfest, that's their pricing on their vendors market. So we wanted to do like a competitive pricing with them, but also a partnership with Mudfest. So we have discussed some partnership opportunities to team up with our business market there. Along with that, we're going to have local entertainment. Hopefully, the MD of Bonnyville will be our local entertainment sponsors. So some groups that we have secured are Main Street, they're a band out of Cold Lake, and a country singer named Olivia Rose, who is actually from Elk Point, has moved to Edmonton and has been winning provincial and national awards for her country music. So we're pretty happy to have secured her. We're hoping to get some Indigenous dancers as well as Indigenous drummers to be a part of the show. We're talking with Cheer Force, the Jets team that just came back from Worlds, to help us with volunteer. Well, I say volunteer, but we're actually paying the nonprofit to be a part of it. So they're raising some money, and we're hoping to get a show from them. And then we've put a call out to other local entertainers as well. Am I missing anyone? Oh, there's some DJs.
Yeah, there's 2 different DJs, local DJs that we'll be highlighting as well.
Yeah, so one unique thing about our RibFest is our beer gardens. So typically you'll have a few local vendors and then Molson or Bud Light might be one of them. But this year we've actually opted to do 100% local beer gardens. So we're only doing local vendors there. You won't see any brand names, like big brand names, I mean. We're helping even from the beer gardens up for the local market. So we're hoping to bring in around 10,000 people and draw people from Vermilion, and then if you drew a circle, Lac La Biche, like there's a RibFest in Lloydminster. So we're hoping to draw in the Vermilion market, the Two Hills St. Paul, Lac La Biche market, and then everything down to Cold Lake. Missing anything on there?
No, I think you caught that. Expecting, like Jenna said, between 10 to 12,000 attendees over the 3 days. It's a 3-day event. There is, I believe the city is announcing a massive soccer tournament
There is soccer
shortly.
provincials, yeah.
Yeah, so we're even expecting people from far out of the Lakeland area as well to just casually
Yeah, and I think it would just be really great for this region to be able to have this soccer tournament that we're guaranteeing some people, and then it's like, hey, there's Ribfest and there's entertainment, and look at what they've done during this weekend that we're here. So this is a big endeavor for Lakeland Connect, and although like Lakeland Connect themselves, like, we hope to, you know, make a profit as a business, this event, we're looking at not doing so without local support.
And, you know, like any event goes in their first year, you remain hopeful to make a profit, but at the end of the day, with first-time ventures, it's not likely, and it's especially not likely if sponsorship dollars are lower.
Okay, so I'm just gonna scroll through some of these packages that I put together. If I have this on, yeah. Okay. So this is our Ribfest package, and it just goes through some of the sponsorships. The event background I went through with you guys already. What we're expecting, over 10,000 people, 100% local businesses to be involved. There's free admission, by the way. I failed to mention that. We do not charge for the concerts or anything. People can come for free. They will have to pay for the ribs, which is actually money going to the vendors, so we don't get a piece of that whatsoever. So it's a family-friendly event. We're gonna have a kids zone with bounce houses. We're gonna use local businesses to help execute it, from waste removal to the bouncy houses. It's all going to be local businesses involved in it. We're really just hoping to contribute to the economy, showcase some of the local businesses we have in the area, support the nonprofits by offering up like jobs for them to do for payment. We are going to pay them. It's not a volunteer thing. We're going to pay any nonprofits that want to be a part of it, whether it's sporting people like the Cheer Force Jets or the Cold Lake Ag Society. Those are just some of the nonprofits we've approached and are in discussions with. So our presenting sponsor is likely going to be the City of Cold Lake. They're actually discussing that tonight, but it seems quite promising that the City of Cold Lake is going to be taking that. So we're asking the MD of Bonnyville to become our entertainment sponsor. So you will basically have the whole stage as the MD of Bonnyville whenever we're presenting a band or a DJ or dancers or whoever it may be. It would be, this is brought to you by the MD of Bonnyville. Leading up to the event, any advertising that has to do with the bands or anything else will say presented by the MD of Bonnyville. So we want to tie you guys right into the stage. That sponsorship package, there's only one available, so it will be exclusive to the MD. So no one else will be up there with you. We'll be just giving you all the love on that one.
The unique thing about having a media company put on an event of this magnitude is, as the sponsors receive, you know, not only the deliverables that were promised to them for during the event, the signage at the event, but, you know, we also have the ability to use our platforms to advertise our sponsors and just show our gratitude back in that way. So that's another thing to mention.
So some of the ways I can quickly think of how the MD would benefit from that, leading up to Ribfest, we can definitely promote like, hey, this is a great place for you to stay, like the Cold Lake campsites that the MD owns, or maybe Crane Lake is nearby. Hey, you know, come have some ribs and then maybe hang upside down over at Kinnessoo Ridge. So we can definitely promote what the MD has to offer and what people can do in the meantime when they're not attending Ribfest, or those down moments. And then we'll also have a nice spin-off on people who just happen to peruse the Reddit page, or like we said, the soccer teams that are gonna be in the area. They're not playing games 24/7, so those kids will definitely need to find something to do. So you can have a look at our sponsorship package thoroughly if you like, if you haven't already, but I'm just gonna scroll quickly through because we got through the part that had to do with the MD. And, oh, I did include a budget. I'm not sure if you, yeah, they're gonna. So this is our budget here. As you can see, we have some of the vendors. The Billy's Barbecue, Buckeyes Barbecue, they pay us to put on the show. And then that helps pay for our staging, our lighting, the waste removal, the toilets, the security, power setup, paying the nonprofit groups to help us execute this, the costs associated with beer gardens, which is like a liquor license and security and ice and tables and all that good stuff.
There's lots, more
Yes.
than we even, more expenses than we even thought originally.
Yes, and that gives you an idea of where we are. And as you can see, it's pretty much a break-even budget on that front.
Yep.
And that's with the sponsorship support, so, in there.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So I guess at this point, any questions today?
Any
Laura?
questions, gentlemen?
No
Yes.
questions, but just a comment. I think it's, like I've always said, we need more events in the area. And I think it'd be a family fun kids event, and, you know, beer gardens and, you know, all kinds of different things. So I'm kind of hoping that we sponsor it, but.
Thank
very
you.
much.
Any other comments or questions? All right, ladies, thank you for
Okay.
your presentation this morning.
Thanks for your
Oh.
time.
I'll just throw in the pitch. The entertainment sponsor is a $15,000 commitment from the MD of Bonnyville, and I believe the value back is a $50,000, and all the things that the MD gets with it is right there in the sponsorship package.
We give each of you guys free plates of ribs.
Yeah, there's
too,
that as
by
well.
the way, just so
There
you
you go.
know.
There's that as well.
You can come out and enjoy some ribs.
So, yeah. And with that, thank you.
Well, thank you, ladies. You guys have a great day.
Thanks, gentlemen.
Thank you.
All right, just looking for a motion.
I'll make a motion that we take this as information.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Slipchuk, for making a motion on behalf of council. The council accepts the presentation by Lakeland Connect as information and further directs administration to bring their request for sponsorship report of RibFest 2023 to a future meeting of council for consideration. Any discussion on this motion? Yes, Councillor
So is that
Scarson.
a future meeting, or is that like the next meeting, let's say? Like, do you want to put a date on that? Because they're coming up in July, right?
Yeah. When can we discuss this? When do they need it by, Al?
Thank you, Mr. Members of Council. It could certainly go to another meeting, but I do know that in speaking to both the ladies, that they're in the final stages of making preparations. And if this was to go on for another couple of weeks, it would have some impact on how they plan the event. Typically, the MD and council does not make decisions on the same day as a delegation, but this has kind of been in process for a while. I would certainly encourage council to give some serious thought to maybe having it come back to later in this council meeting for discussion. I think to be fair to Lakeland Connect and to the rest of the organizers of this, that a decision probably sooner than later would be in their best interest.
Okay, thank you for that. What's the flavor of council? Yes, go
Mr.
ahead.
Reid, is there any reason why we can't just have, you know, talk about it right now, and I'll make a motion? I know
We
there
have-
is, but it has to come back,
I,
but
I think we should go through all our delegations for time, and then we could throw it in the meeting somewhere later. Is that okay? Would that be better, or what do you
Sure.
guys think?
that's fair.
I would concur.
Because your delegations can run later, and then we get out of whack, so. Okay, any more discussion on the motion that we have, and then we can, I'm sure Mr. Hogan can put it somewhere in the meeting in a bit.
Mr. Reeve?
Mr.
Yes,
Abel,
go ahead.
if we could just have the motion
Yeah.
reflect to bring it back later in the council meeting.
We could just update the wording if Councillor Slipchuk is okay with that to, instead of say future meeting, just bring it back for council consideration. We'll bring it back later in the meeting.
That'd be great. What do you say?
Yeah, I'm good with that.
Okay, thank you. So we'll just wait a few moments for them to adjust that. Our next delegation is Bonneville Primary Care Network. You can sit for a little bit. Yeah, she's just rewriting it. This is the Okay, thank you. I'm going to read this again. This is moved by Councillor Sipchick on behalf of council, that council accepts the presentation by Lakeland Connect as information, and furthermore directs administration to bring their request for sponsorship report of RibFest 2022 later in this meeting for council's consideration. Any discussion on this motion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. Carried, thank you. Mr. Hogan, where would you like to put that then? Or we
Mr. Reeve, members of council, I think probably best, how about 9.6.8 under Chief Administrative Officer?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Hogan. Okay, we can go on to 5.2, the Bonneville Primary Care Network. Welcome.
That's okay. Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Will Stephanie pull that up, or just there should be the presentation I originally sent? Appendix A, yeah, perfect, thank you. So good morning, I'm Jessie Steen, I'm the Executive Director with the Bonneville and Cold Lake Primary Care Network. So I'm here today to present on the Hive Integrated Youth Hub located in the community of Bonneville, and just share some information about what the work that's happening, as well as a request for funding support. So the project summary is as of May 2023, so there is some data to show the access and utilization by youth in the community. But essentially, this project was started under the Bonneville Primary Care Network 3 years ago now. The work was slowed a bit during COVID, but essentially it was a grant, a larger grant provided by Government of Alberta under CMHA, so the Canadian Mental Health Association. And really the Youth Hub is best understood as an integration of health and social services in a youth-friendly environment. So the focus is really on prevention and early intervention, and by providing the provision of resources by way of community partnerships through local agencies or providers to support service delivery. So quick introduction of how the group is made up currently. So we do have a wide, diverse group of stakeholders in the local area that support this work. The fiscal agent currently is the Bonneville Primary Care Network. So the funds that come in through grants or local partners comes through the Bonneville Primary Care Network as a governance and fiscal agent, and then supports operations and the work of the program. The steering committee is led by myself and a local community nurse practitioner, Chantel Valley. And we have 26 active members that are represented within our steering committee currently. And then we do have a youth advisory committee, which is mandated as part of the program from government as far as what this work is to do. And the youth advisory does have 23 representatives, 2 that typically do attend steering committee meetings or are more involved in the youth voice, but their voice has been critical in the work that we've provided and the infrastructure that's been developed. So what does the Youth Hub do? So the vision that was developed over the last 3 years was that we believe the needs of all youth and young adults can be supported in our community directly. We don't need to send them out to other communities or other areas, that we have a lot of providers and services, and so the vision is really to keep our youth here and providing that service. Our mission is that we will partner with our community and our youth to foster hope, connections, and support through collaboration and compassion in a youth-friendly environment. So what we heard from our youth during this development is that they often are put in positions where they have to go to clinics or other services where they're having trouble navigating it, or may not be as supportive as an environment that they need. So we're looking to kind of build capacity in a different way. So through this work, the youth and young adults in our community have told us that they need help. They're struggling with mental health, they're struggling with access, and so what we're looking to focus on is taking action for the supports and services that we have gaps in our community. So this just talks a little bit about the integration of this work. And so one of the most critical pieces of the infrastructure of this initiative is that it takes a stepped care approach. So it's not just focused on one provider, not just the physician, not just a nurse. We look at all systems. So, you know, partnerships with FCSS or Dragonfly Counseling, you know, the Métis Friendship Center, our Indigenous partners, and then all of our health partners, our educators. So this work is really on the backs of all of those agencies coming together and providing a level of care that the youth are looking for. So we're looking to fill that void in this community by bringing these associations together in one place and focusing on that service delivery. So how will we do this? So our guiding principles are built on youth and family participation in the design and implementation of services. So we are working with youth and families on a regular basis to get that feedback and that work as far as what are the gaps, what has evolved as far as access and services. And from the surveys that we did 3 years ago to the most recent surveys, that has changed, and it should change. It will evolve, and we will continue to look at that service offering and changing as that feedback comes to us. We are looking at the integration of services across those service providers while aiming to be culturally relevant and barrier-free in access. So continuity of services for youth and young adults is we do currently serve 14 to 21. As we've gone through the assessments, that seemed to be the most the age range that had the most youth that had gaps in services. And so the work that we do is focused on that age. We're focusing on clearly identified and easy accessible points of care in the community that can provide rapid service. So there's no refusal, there's no referral that's refused, and we're looking at access to high quality, youth appropriate, culturally relevant, and evidence-informed mental health services. So most of the work that we are doing is backed on evidence-based care, and I'll speak to that in a moment, but our service offering is also in one centralized location to create that accessibility and continuity in services. So when we spoke with our youth early on, we thought that the C2 or another center would be an amazing facility to host this work. However, it was identified quickly by the youth that was not a safe space for them, for many of them. And so that's why we have our location on Main Street next to Tellier's. And so it's walking distance for most youth, where they can be bused from, you know, reserve or outside of the community, or parents can drop them off, and it's quite central for them. So when we talk about evidence-based work, we focus on the National Wellness Institute that promotes 6 dimensions of wellness. And so this is emotional, occupational, physical, social, intellectual, and spiritual health. And we basically looked at addressing all 6 of those dimensions to build our programming. So when we mindfully focus on wellness in our lives, it builds resilience and enables those to thrive amidst life's challenges. And so we look at what our youth have gone through with COVID and not being at school, not building social relationships, and not even going through those normal stages of life of how to become a contributing adult or a member of society. We need to start building that capacity back and providing them resources to do that. So based on this model, we have built a foundation that all of our programming is built around the 6 dimensions of wellness. So what you'll note here is that each dimension then has some examples of programming that we offer. So for example, in the physical dimension of wellness, we offer exercise classes or intro to sports programs, and that can be by way of programming that's offered in our facility, or we've partnered with C2 where we have some drop-in opportunities for youth to come there. In our social dimension, we have a coffee house. So within the front of the building, we do have a drop-down area where youth can just walk in, enjoy a coffee or tea or juice. They can play board games. We have, different activities like air hockey and things like that for them to just come and engage with youth in a safe place. As far as intellectual, we have mentoring programs. We've built tutoring programs, skill development in the sense of resume building or adulting 101 or 201 courses. And then, you move to spiritual, we have our Indigenous partners, our faith-based groups, all kind of helping to support different programming. And then emotional as far as mentorship, counseling, and a sense of community. So all of these programs are offered on a drop-in basis in some regards. We have then one-to-one service offerings to youth, and then group programming that the youth can register for. Our website does list all of the programming on a month-to-month basis, and youth can register for that programming. And then we do have a schedule that's sent out to community partners or physicians so that they can refer youth and family to access those services. So that is all listed for the youth. A lot of the programming is based on this model, but we do take youth feedback into account as far as what's needed. So for example, the youth advisory had identified a gap with some of their peers that they may not be able to get a grad dress or a grad suit for their upcoming grad formals. And the youth built a program where we took donations for used dresses or gowns and suits and ties that youth could come in and try on, and then they could receive those as a donation so that they could also be just as dressed up as their peers. So that's an example of a program that the youth identified to support our work. This is some surveying that's been completed. So this survey here has over 300 youth that participated in, and our educators are to thank for some of that, as they really helped support the youth filling out our online survey. So this is just identifying some of the data in regards to what percentage of youth are interested in. And so you'll see down below in the yellow, a lot of social things, but financial literacy is really important to our youth. Fitness has become really important. Computer access and internet, resume building. So a lot of our programming has been built on the backs of what the youth are telling us they need. So before I go into that, I just had Stephanie provide you with just some data around our numbers for when we were open for last fiscal term. I just didn't have this prior to the submission deadline. But what you'll see is that the Youth Hub was formally opened in June of 2022. So this data is from June to the end of March 2023. We were open for 10 months fully last year, which was 162 days. During that time, we served 376 individual youth in our community, which equated to 1,240 visits or encounters with the youth in programming. On the left, you'll see our most popular programs in each wellness dimension as far as attendance. And then we do have the data, if you're interested, as far as what those attendance levels were, what communities they may have come from, or school districts. So we do have a lot of data around the youth that are actually formally attending. And then our notable events. So we had some bigger events this year that were well attended. On average, right now, we're seeing about 10 to 16 youth a day in the hub. And we are open Mondays, Wednesday, Thursday, and Fridays currently. And we are open in the evenings till about 7 to 9, dependent on the day. Tuesdays, we are closed for our administrative day, so that's where the team is working on building programs and capacity. But you can see that the youth are attending quite regularly, and we're continuing to build new youth to attend to the work that we're doing. So I will maybe just jump to the budget I sent Stephanie. Am I able to pull that one up here? Is that possible? So you have a paper copy. The Hive Steering Committee is working to move the Hive to be its own entity, so it slowly moves away from the PCN. And the reason for that is that we have 3 years now of historical grant support, but now we have 3 years committed from a new grant. So the program will have 6 years of setting up and operations. And so the group has identified that it would be best to slowly move it to be its own society, garner its charity status, and then it could kind of operate as its own entity. So this is an updated budget that was approved by that board that just stood up last week. And so what you'll note as far as revenue is there is on the second line kickstand grant that hasn't been formally announced for the next 3 years, but we do have commitment for that. And the reason is that Government of Alberta has switched the larger fiscal agent. So the grant was held under CMHA, so the Canadian Mental Health Association, and they had opened it up for a new grant holder, and Kickstand has been awarded that. Now, Kickstand is a youth mental health advocacy group. They do a lot of virtual mental health and support, and the work that they do really aligns with the integrated hubs. So you'll note that in CMHA, we'll be supporting this first year Q1, and then it'll move to Kickstand, which we're just not quite sure on that amount yet. It should be announced this month. This budget will remain stable for this term, and it will reflect for next term as well, dependent on MD's fiscal term for this and next. So you'll note some of our core supports would be FCSS. We have some other small donations in community. We have a rent subsidy as our child and adolescent mental health program are co-located because the programs do align and have a lot of shared youth in the programming. And then we have Town of Bonnyville, which has been our second supporter in our major funding you just scroll, or I can do it, I guess, here, sorry. So what you will note as far as expenses, they're general operating expenses for the group and then, or for a business, and then our employee wages. So the wages and benefits are split into two categories, admin and clinical. So the administrative employee wages, to be clear, is we have an operations lead that supports the programming at a 0.4. And then we do have two youth coordinators and a program assistant. And they basically support the development of the programs and services. And they are there each day for the youth, for the individual support and or the programming. The clinical supports noted in here is we do have a 0.2 social worker, and then we have a 0.2 nurse practitioner that will be supporting the program as well. So that's the breakdown of supports within the program. You will note that there's a deficit projected, and that's because of the Kickstand funding not being formally in the budget. So if the funding that comes in from Kickstand, the North Zone PCN, or the MD of Bonnyville aren't full as what we expected, then we do have some programming shifts to make. And that would basically slow down some of our phase development. So down in one-time expenses, you will see a phase 3 development. And what's noted in there is that the current physical operational space that we're in does still have a bit of work that needs to be done to enhance our fitness programming. So if we're not able to secure all the funding for this term, then that project will be moved out and it will just be open rec space. So there's a few things that would have to evolve depending on what support we garner for the funding. So that's kind of a breakdown there for you. So basically what we're looking to do is request from the MD of Bonnyville to match the town of Bonnyville's support over the last 2 years for this program. And the town of Bonnyville currently supports $50,000 to the program to help get it stood up. The intention would be that the request would be initially for one term with reevaluation to then either maintain that or reduce that until we can garner another larger grant from either government or another program to sustain it under one or two larger grants and help kind of keep this programming expand and develop. So I will stop there for any questions or comments.
Thank you. Gentlemen, yeah, go ahead, Councillor Crick.
Yeah, you mentioned at the beginning the Youth Advisory Committee, and you said something about that being mandated by government. I was
Correct.
just curious why that is, or if you can give me some details, would be great.
Yeah, absolutely. So the grant itself was built on youth access. And so we typically decide where youth accesses services, whether it's clinics or mental health referrals or which clinicians they see. And government wanted to take another transition around, look and transition on what about the youth voices, right? So they basically, when we are making core decisions around service delivery or access, we do need their feedback as part of it. And so there is evaluation done at a third-party level. So policy-wise, does evaluation for government around our programming. We do our own internal, but they do have a third party to assess what is that youth engagement. But the request for it is that if we're to truly create low barrier and inclusive spaces, then youth need to have a voice at the table. So ultimately, the steering committee and management will determine kind of what is that final programming and services, but we do take into account the youth based on that mandate. So I don't know if that answers your question fully.
So just for clarity then, so you got a grant from the provincial government and they required that?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Deputy Reeve Fadeev.
Good morning. In regards to your location, do you have one in Cold Lake?
Currently, no. So we are in the process that we've had many communities like St. Paul and Cold Lake request us to support some pop-ups. So we've been exploring partnership with those communities to bring, some of our team out to provide services to those youth. I have been working with City Council and FCSS there to explore opportunities, but at this time, no.
So why Bonnyville then?
So why Bonnyville? So the SEED grant, so Chantal Valley, my co-chair, she had applied for a SEED grant, which was $10,000 to do a needs assessment of the community. And part of that was because we have our child and adolescent mental health program. So that work aligned quite closely with that program. So that, and then it just kind of evolved that the youth they were telling us they don't have services. So we kept kind of moving through the grant work, and here we are today. But it started with a $10,000 seed grant to
Pretty well
explore.
grassroots push?
100%, yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, for sure. So, the numbers are pretty good for what, what you guys are getting in, so, okay, thank you.
Any other comments or any final words by you?
No, so to your comment, we do recognize it's a large ask, but when we look at local support, there is then, I guess as you could say, skin in the game to make sure that programs align with also community, needs and hopefully align with council's, service delivery requests. So it helps kind of build that capacity early in partnership. And then there's also maybe motivated interest to continue to look for other grants and support us through other service delivery. So we recognize that it's a big request, but we're hoping that it helps kind of build that relationship with the MD to keep programming alive for the youth.
Yeah, I'll go with Councillor Swaggart, then we'll move our way this way.
Sorry, I'm just looking at the bottom line of your budget, and it's a bit scary because your deficit, your projected deficit is almost 200,000.
Yep.
So the MD would kick in if we did 50,000. That doesn't get you out of the hole though. And so the kickstand funding, you're hoping that's gonna, but is that not just for normally a year or two, or how long is that?
Yeah, so if you note, there's a note section there, and it says the previous CMHA funding for the term was 328,000.
Yeah.
So we're hoping that that we're in line with that project for the fiscal support. So basically, we'd be looking at hoping to receive anywhere from 250 to 300 each term for the next 3 years. So yes, it is a large deficit as we're waiting for that kickstand funding. So as soon as we know, we'd be happy to support that letter from Kickstand as far as what they're agreeing to.
And so, yeah, it's just hard though, because how do you, when Kickstand runs out, then what do you do, right? You're back in the same position,
yes,
right?
and that's why we're hoping to look to other financial supports or other grants that can create continued sustainability. This is unfortunate work as far as working in grant space under government grants, is we're always constantly looking for funds to support this work.
And so right now you're located next to Tellier's, you said?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yes, Councillor Crick?
Yeah, you also mentioned having a nurse practitioner at point 2, is that what I heard correctly?
Yes.
And just, if you can give me a couple examples of kind of what does that service
Yeah.
provide for the actual youth?
Absolutely. So the youth identified that they have fear or reservation, or they don't go to the Bonnyville Medical Clinic. They might see their teacher or a family friend. And so if they're accessing mental health or health services, they don't have as much autonomy. Also creating kind of a safe space where they can learn to access and book their own appointments. As I mentioned earlier, we are seeing a big gap in that maturity in our youth. That time during COVID stole some of that from our youth to build that independence. And so in the Youth Hub access, we have 2 access doors. So the first one on the left is accessing our social space and programming. And then to the right, we do have some clinical space accessible there. And so the youth have asked for walk-in or booked clinic that's just accessible to youth. So we would be looking at evening or a weekend clinic on a weekly basis for youth to come and access walk-in services. So that'd be, your typical sore throats, prescription refills, their yearly medicals, so all of your base health supports would be provided during that time if they don't feel safe attending the Bonnyville Medical Clinic. We also have a high number of patients in the area and community that are unattached, and a lot of those are youth, and so this would provide additional supports for them to access health services if they don't have their own family physician or nurse practitioner.
Okay, one second. Deputy Reeve Fadeev, and then, go ahead.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
So right now you have a lot of capital costs that are going to renos and everything else. So once that is established and you're finished with that, what kind of operational costs are we looking at to maintain the service that?
The services, yeah.
That's going to happen.
So in services and programs, so you could probably stream off about $100,000 in those capital expenditures as far as equipment to get set up, the development of the spaces. So if you normalize that and kind of normalize the staffing, that would be what we projected to remove from our costs. So if you took that even out of this budget, as I mentioned earlier, that would shave off the deficit down to, 90 to 100,000 itself, not 200,000 as noted. So that's kind of what we had projected.
So total cost of running the place, $200,000 then?
So, yeah, I would say more effectively, you'd be looking at 250,000 to 270 would be a realistic operating, once you kind of remove those still stand-up one-time costs.
Would the province recognize that as a standing society, and how much funding would they get from, things change, and it's a moving target with the province, depending on who's in and if there's election time or not. What kind of projected funds are you thinking? I know I can't commit to anything, but what kind of support from the province will we get? Because it's doing a lot of things. It's providing, proper mental health services, some other things that are provided by PCNs. What kind of support will we get from the PCN organization?
So that's a very good question, because it is a moving target right now. So we do know on a primary care level that things are going to shift. So there are initiatives in place as far as, so if you haven't heard of the term MAPS, so Modernizing Alberta's Primary Care Systems, there's a proposal currently being reviewed by Ministry of Health to assess those gaps that we have in primary care and how do we adapt and change that service delivery. There's a new funding model coming to primary care networks potentially. So when we start to understand what those look like, that will change and evolve service and partnership that we can offer in these services. Right now, we know government has agreed to 3 years of funding for Kickstand. And I anticipate that the work that they put in over this last year to align this work, we could see that becoming more sustainable as far as programming. But right now, we only have the 3 years line of sight on this programming. I don't know if that answers your question fully.
Yeah, when I join in with the MAPS calls there, it's one thing they didn't cover, and I'm just that was my question. So will the new MAPS program see this as a viable, solution to the MAPS program?
Yeah, that is a good question. I don't know if I could answer that. However, I do know that many of my colleagues are looking at this work. So there are currently 11 hubs in the province. And especially in the north zone, we're seeing obviously a continued lack of resource in rural and remote communities. And so I've presented to, Aspen PCN, Lakeland PCN. So a lot of my colleagues in PCNs are looking at this as a potential solution for service delivery for youth in particular. So there's work being done, but is there anything formal? Not yet.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Slipchuk.
Yeah, just your comment on I'd like to know explanation on you saying that the C2 Center was not a safe place for this. Like, could you tell us why?
We were very surprised as well, but the youth felt that it wasn't inclusive for all of them. So our Indigenous youth, or those youth that are not athletic, they made it very clear to us that if it was at the C2, they likely would not necessarily attend all the programming. And so we really had to go back to the table and start to explore those conversations. And when we started to look at the old laser tag building or this current building we're in, youth engagement started to increase drastically. And so that is the feedback the youth did and provided, and we moved forward and made those changes to select a different space. So that's where that came from.
Thank you.
All right, seeing nothing, thank you for your presentation
Okay,
today.
thank you.
And you have a great rest of the day and safe trip home.
Thank you, everyone.
Just looking for a motion from council. Yeah, okay. Thank you, Councillor Kraviak, for making a motion on behalf of council that council accepts a presentation by the Bonneville Primary Care Network as information, and furthermore directs administration to bring their request for funding support for the Hive Integrated Youth Hub Initiative to a future meeting of council for consideration. Any discussion on this motion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. That's carried, thank you. Is our next delegation here?
No, they are not.
They're not, okay. That brings us into 9.2.3, I believe. That's public safety. Is that correct? That we're at? Okay, thank you.
Morning again, Mr. Reid,
Morning.
Council. Okay, I'm here to present the first quarter report for the Department of Public Safety for 2023. Many of our patrols have begun to transition, obviously, as we got into the summer, into the campgrounds and that kind of thing. So campgrounds, I think we'll see the numbers start to climb. 24 patrols in the first quarter. Again, that would have only ended in March, so we're going to see a pretty dramatic increase in that area. Town halls, you'll see, we're still maintaining active patrols there, 41, Kinnessee Ridge, landfills, and of course the bin sites are sort of an ongoing problem, I guess, with the types of garbage that we see deposited there and left. We do have a couple of active investigations on that right now. I can advise council that we're looking at charges on a couple of files where we've been able to obtain license plates and the requisite information that we need to prosecute people who are depositing things they should not be depositing at our bin sites. Working with Waste Services on that. Cameras have improved the situation for us. And also, in one case, one of our employees was even at the scene, sort of in a different area, but observed somebody depositing something they should not be depositing and had a conversation, and we were able to escalate it from there. So we're going to be dealing with that right away. Continue to focus on industry. I've committed 305 hours to our patrol roads for ESSO and Baytex and CNRL so far this quarter. Excuse me, first quarter so far this year. Commercial vehicles continue to be a focus for us. During the first quarter, we conducted 102 commercial vehicle inspections, resulting in 34 trucks being pulled from service again. This does not mean that they're pulled from service indefinitely. They may be just stopped on the roadside until somebody can come and provide them with a functional fire extinguisher or whatever, repair whatever deficiency that may be. Overweight vehicles are a priority for the MD as well. We prosecuted, we charged 6 violators so far in the first quarter with overweights. Numbers again are going to increase in that regard simply because obviously the road bans were not in effect during the first quarter, but we're certainly into that now. So provincial tickets, bylaw tickets, and provincial warnings. You'll see here that these numbers are, you see number 219 and 353. I just want to make it very clear that these are not, in some cases what you'll see is it's the same motorist. So we'll pull over a truck and we'll give 1 ticket or 2 tickets and we'll advise them of other deficiencies that they may have. And when we do, we give that in the way of a provincial warning. That's how we document what we've told them. We've had cases in the past when we don't itemize these things where somebody says, well, I was stopped the other day and nobody said anything. So that's why we don't want to give them a mountain of paperwork, but at the same time, to protect ourselves and to make sure that everything's documented, we do give out the warnings in written form.
So that won't work for me no more, eh?
I'm sorry, Mr.
That
Reid?
won't work for me no more.
So yes, you'll see that there was a larger gap in years past. We're kind of where I think we should be right now in terms of warnings and tickets. We don't want to completely, we can't write tickets for everything, right?
Yes.
We have to be sensible and we
Yes.
look at what's the most dangerous thing and from there we transition to education.
Thank you.
Kilometers and visits to your wards and also to our hamlets in the village of Glendon. And I'll just continue on with the slides here. Unless there's any comments, I can certainly circle back.
Yes.
Incident. Oh,
Deputy
sorry.
Reid for them.
You know what my comment's gonna be. So, yeah, regards to Cherry Grove, I mean, we're only seeing 78 visits compared to Fort Kent at 297 and 140 and 183 accordingly. We still have a fire bug out there, and I think it's elevated everybody's awareness to maybe the lack of seeing us out there. I received a couple calls on that, and I asked them to call your department as well, so we kind of tag team that, but just give you that.
Through the read
Two
to
bits of
Councillor
advice.
Fadea, thank you for the information. To be honest with you, when I looked at Cherry Grove on this report, it was a little bit strange. If you look, we've got 594 kilometers, and yet 16 hours and 78 visits. And then, the kilometers range similar to Fort Kent. So there's a bit of I'm not sure what happened there. I can't really explain it. I did circle back, the numbers are accurate. But there may be a glitch or ghost in the machine. I'm not sure what the issue is there, because it doesn't make sense that we'd have 297 visits in Fort Kent, 78 in Cherry Grove, and a very similar number of kilometers driven. So I'm not sure what's happening there. Maybe the geofencing is acting up, but I'll have to talk to our support staff about it. I would suggest that we're probably in that same ballpark. Cherry Grove is a focus. I don't think you'll be able to talk to a peace officer out there and ask them if they spend time in Cherry Grove. I don't think you're going to hear no. Well, we spend a lot of time out there. So I think there might be a bit of an anomaly there, or a glitch with the data, but I'll find out. Just to your point about the fire bugs and that kind of thing, we have been made aware of a couple of individuals and residences that we are aware of through the BRFA. So they had received a complaint about it from another resident, and they notified us. So we do have some addresses that we are driving by. Some people that seem to have no problem having a burn bin in their backyard. So, as far as the types of complaints and the volume, fairly consistent. Traffic complaints are at 22. It's a little bit higher than in years past for the first quarter. Dog complaints are quite high. The rest is fairly status quo. No unsightly properties, obviously, in the first 3 months. We're going to be covered in snow, but we are getting lots of those complaints coming up now. So we're quite busy with the unsightlies right now. Petty trespass. We've only had a couple of investigations this year, in the first quarter, with petty trespass. That's not unusual. This type of thing increases in the summer as well. So, talked about the unsightly properties. Of course, we didn't have any from the first quarter. Everything's covered in snow. Those are starting to manifest right now. As far as the SRO program, I delivered 304 presentations to over just about 3,800 students in the first quarter. We're still maintaining service to the 23 area schools and the 3 school divisions. Continue forward with that into the remainder of this year and into September as well. Partnerships. It's a great way to share resources and share the cost of enforcement. We work with our partners as often as we can. In the first quarter, we had 19 law enforcement related projects, files or investigations where we worked with primarily the RCMP, but also a little bit with Fish and Wildlife. Our focus moving forward into the next quarter, we're looking at aggressive drivers in April. We're looking at cycling and alcohol and drug impairment. Now this is a calendar, this enforcement calendar is shared with police agencies. So when you see anything relating to impaired driving, it's something that they would deal with. Were we to assist them in some kind of a project, we would potentially help with a check stop, but we would be doing only Traffic Safety Act conversations after they've funneled those people through. We haven't been requested to participate in those yet, but our focus moving forward through the summer, you'll see a lot of motorcycle safety stuff and some speed and aggressive driving as well. Additionally, we were planning, we had some schedules made up here for off-highway vehicle patrols in May. Obviously, that's not going to be the case yet. We definitely will be planning that as these restrictions lift. Hopefully we'll get some rain and we'll be able to get people out recreating and enjoying themselves again. But that being said, we have received a couple of complaints, I believe 2 in the last week, of off-highway vehicle use during the restrictions. So patrols have been made in those cases. Obviously, those people don't stick around in one area for very long. And so hopefully those things are not a big concern for us. We're not actually actively using our UTV or ATV right now. We don't want to be the start of any kind of an issue or a fire ourselves, so we're patrolling in our vehicles only at the moment. Next week, we've obtained training for 2 officers to be able to conduct boat, not inspections, but information sessions, if you will, at our boat launches to help people understand what it is that they need to have in their vessels as they depart for the fishing season and the recreation season on our lakes. So next week, that'll be, the training is next week, and we'll be starting that process shortly thereafter. I would say in the next 2 to 3 weeks, you'll see us we'll have some information on what we're doing at the boat launches and that kind of thing. See, the intent is just to offer them guidance, information, packages, what it is that you need to have in a boat. There's certain differences depending on the type of boat you have, the length of the boat, the number of occupants, all those kinds of things. There's lots of variables. So we're going to be training our staff next week, and then we'll be implementing this program this year, which is 1 year ahead of the business plan. Any questions on the first quarter report?
Go ahead.
Since it's springtime and I know when we had those issues with the drowning, we talked about maybe like a little river boat and things like that, and there's some stakeholders that we have in our community that had a boat or were looking at maybe partnering up with one. Where has that gone to, or is that just kind of stalemated before we get another emergency where we need a smaller boat to help somebody on our rivers?
Through the Reeve to the Deputy Reeve, we did procure a couple of boats, I believe it was last year, that were distributed to the Cold Lake Fire Department for that area. I have just actually having exchanged emails this morning with Search and Rescue for Bonnyville. I haven't heard back from them yet, but I did send them one this morning. I plan to talk with them on Saturday, which is our emergency management event in Ardmore. And I'll have a discussion with them and Cold Lake Search and Rescue as well. I'd like to talk to them and find out what their equipment inventory is and what their needs are, et cetera, and help them along. You know, there's grants available through the province that I can point them towards. So we're going to have that discussion on Saturday.
Awesome. So you'll come back with a report for us next time?
I certainly
possibly?
can,
Okay,
yes.
awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Yes, Councillor Slipchuk.
Yeah, I got a question. You say we partner with CNRL, Baytex, and Ovis and Imperial Oil. Every time we get this, I was hoping to see Strathcona up there last year. Are we pursuing to see if they'd partner with us and also?
Strathcona did not seek a partnership with us. They had a recent business transaction. I'm not sure what the details of that were, but there was some sales and purchases and that kind of thing. Following that, there was no commitment on their part to continue with industry patrols, so they backed away from that.
Are we gonna keep pushing them like a Watkins salesman?
Well, you know, I don't, through the Reeve, I don't know if pushing is the right word. I mean, they're aware of what services we have. I think the way forward is to, and not only with them, but with anybody else who wishes to retain our services, is to provide a quality service to the people that we have under contract, and also through education. I think there's a lot of that they're looking for right now, the industry people. And we do have people attending industry meetings and safety meetings just about on a monthly basis right now. So that's improved quite a bit over the last year or so.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments? Well, thank you for that report. Just looking for a motion now, gentlemen. Okay, thank you, Deputy Reeve Fideo, for making motion on behalf of council. The council accepts the Public Safety 2023 first quarterly report as information. Any discussion, gentlemen? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. That's carried. Thank you. And talking about aggressive drivers, we have two of them right here, so come on up, guys. Morning.
So we're pretty casual today. Last year, I think we came with a big presentation, and we're not doing any of that today. Basically, we're just here to say a sincere thank you for your guys' support last year. It was huge. We definitely could not do what we do without the MD. I guess today we're just here to, officially request your guys' support again in 2023 and answer any questions you guys might have about what we're up to this year, et cetera. That's the quick and short of it.
All right, that's, go ahead, Councillor Swaggart.
Yeah, my neighbor stopped by and I think you all know Brian Chess, but he told me some dates, and I just like you to repeat the dates that you guys have selected for this, for the summer. Okay.
That's Saturday, May 27th is the test and tune. And then July 7, 8, 9?
Yep, correct.
Friday being the car show and the race on the Saturday, Sunday.
Sorry, I was writing the numbers there. So 27th of May, test and tune, and that's not, maybe just let the public know, that's kind of not really open to the public, that one, is it?
That's correct. That's for racers only.
Okay, and then the other one was what date?
July 7th, 8th, and 9th.
Okay.
And the 7th being the car show on the Friday late afternoon. And then Saturday, Sunday is the drag racing, and all 3 dates are open to the public.
And I think everybody's looking forward to that. Yeah.
Just need the weather to cooperate.
Yeah. Yeah, Mr. Scarson, Councillor Scarson.
Can you just remind us what the support we did for you guys last year was?
100,000. No flinches.
It was just straight money? That was what it was, or?
No.
Yeah.
It was all in kind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, ground support, you name it, everything from picnic tables getting there. The big thing was the grounds maintenance. You guys had the grounds looking unreal, with all the lawn cutting, et cetera.
And just the help from moving of the stands from the grounds, from the rodeo grounds to the airport was a big thing, so.
Yeah, bleachers is a big one.
That was good. Better doing what a half done.
And then related but unrelated, and we brought it up last year, we talked about it, more regional. There's many user groups that bleachers or grandstands is an ongoing issue. Transportation, do they meet the safety requirements, all of those things. I know Ben was starting to look at maybe what was out there, and I understand maybe we've purchased or about to purchase some stands, but I think collectively as a community, I think we need to find out outside of ourselves. There's the soccer, baseball, rodeo.
Yeah, we did approve in the budgets for some portable stands for the MD, so they're on their way hopefully sometime.
Do you have any specs on those? Do we know, like, did you go to the user groups? I'm just curious, no?
Mr. Even, members of council, the MD did purchase with the allocated budget funds, I believe, portable aluminum bleachers that seat, I think, 250 people.
Awesome.
That's good.
Mr. Gabo will
someone
probably
coming
have way more information because he was directly involved.
Yeah, I can speak to the bleachers. So the bleachers have arrived at our parks shop, and they're about 3/4 assembled right now, and they'll be ready to.
July 7th, 8th, and
9th. They'll be ready. They'll definitely be ready by then. So like I said, they're almost fully assembled now. So awesome.
And Cold Lake was great last year. They borrowed us one of their portable bleachers as well. So, is there future plans for more bleachers? Just out of curiosity. Don't know.
We haven't discussed anything. How many did we bring in, and how much capacity do we have?
It's seating capacity for about 288.
And one.
On the one section.
We brought in one section?
Yes.
Okay. Right.
And if it's the budget, maybe next year we can kind of keep expanding it, but see how the user groups are going to use it, because I mean it is a big need for it. So I know right now we're going to have the Ardmore races that are going to happening, like the tractor races, and they're in need of bleachers as well. So yeah, there's lots.
I'd be interested in getting on that if there's a committee, if we want to get user groups together to find out what those, because I think it's a way bigger fish than us. We're a very small event, but I think there's a number of events that
And you guys could probably support some CFAB grants and that sort of thing, I'm sure, to secure some more possibly if there is a need.
Not enough grant money to support all the stuff. But for
Okay,
sure,
Councillor
we're getting
Slipchick, then Councillor Swaggart.
So we just had Ribfest, they're proposed to be July 7th, 8th, 9th. Do you think it's going to have an effect on attendance with your guys?
No.
No, they'll eat and come.
Yeah. We don't think so. We're not too worried about it. It's one of those things, you can go to Ribfest for a couple hours and then make your way to Bonnyville. You have 3 days to choose from. We're not too concerned about it.
Okay, Councillor Swaggart.
Yeah, it was, maybe for everyone that's listening also, what, was there, I don't remember there being a charge, but is there a charge for that?
Yes, so,
Okay.
yeah, we charge only $10 per person, and 12 and under are free.
Okay,
So we
good.
keep keeping it affordable to us is extremely important. And in fact, we actually contemplated raising it this year, and we ultimately decided not to.
Okay,
We
thank
want
you.
to we want to keep it affordable.
Anything for seniors?
You're not 65 yet, Donnie.
Proof of ID. And we encourage you guys, like, come on out. We have a tent set up there, and I think Barry and a few of you came out last year.
Yeah, it was a great time, yep.
And it's really like kind of evolved to making it, you know, really family friendly with the support of Credit Union, with their bouncy house and everything else, really made it all inclusive to everybody. So it was good. I'm sure they're going to support it this year again.
Yeah, we have inquired with them. We are waiting for an answer on that, but.
Maybe this will kind of prompt them to
Yeah.
support it.
We definitely hope to have that side of things back.
It was
Yeah.
great, yeah.
And BFRA, without those folks too, like our event can't happen. The
Yeah.
insurance does not allow it. And, you know, we've got some really great community partners, so we thank you for.
That's good to hear. Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Anything you guys want to add?
No, once again, thank you.
All right,
very
thanks.
much,
Thank
guys.
you for your
Thank you.
presentation.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for coming in today.
Thanks.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, just looking for a motion, gentlemen.
I'll make a motion that we take this as information.
Right, thank you. Thank you, Councillor Slipchick, for making a motion on behalf of council that council accepts the presentation by Bonnyville Gear Grabbers on this year's event as information. Any discussion on this motion? Yes, Councillor?
Well, to say once
Sorry.
again, I mean, we don't meet again this month. Is there a timeline? Like, I mean, do they need to know what we can provide or shore that up before then? right?
Mr. Hogan?
I think, Mr. Members of Council, if it's an in-kind, as it's been in the last couple of years, staff has already been working with the Gear Grabbers towards this year's event. So if council wanted just to direct the administration to continue with working with the in-kind,
So could we make this motion and then add another motion to?
Absolutely.
I think you got something coming in.
And we do, I would also, Ms. Severin just reminded me, we do have an agreement with them for annual support for in-kind. And they have some requirements in the fall to come back with us to, before the end of the year with dates for the next year. So there's really.
Nothing.
There's really not much, but if council would just like to confirm that with a motion directing us to continue with our in-kind efforts to support the Gear Grabbers, that would be acceptable as well.
What's your flavor, guys? Do you think we need anything?
Well, I mean, whatever they need to carry on, right? I mean, like you said, we got that agreement in place, kind of
Yep.
to.
So we're good. We don't need another, no. Okay.
Yeah, just quick, they just want to say thanks. They don't want to take it, for granted. It's a big part of the community, and they just wanted to say thank you, so.
Any other discussion on this, gentlemen? Okay, seeing none, I'll call for the vote then. That's carried. Thank you. All right, we're going to take another 5-minute break. It looks like a lot of guys got to go here. All right. Sorry, Vanna. All right, welcome back. We're going to continue at 9.2.5. And I apologize, I cut you off. Welcome.
Mike.
hear me now?
Yeah, they can probably hear me now as well. So,
Okay, good morning.
morning.
I'll be presenting to council our Ag Services quarterly report for the months of January, February, and March of 2023. We can start with our wild boar program at large. Excuse me. This one-year pilot project with Alberta Ag for the boar ear bounty program ended on March 31st. We had 0 reports of the wild boar and no boar ears were brought in. Alberta Ag has discontinued this program. With the slow melt and little runoff, we only received 21 beaver tails for the incentive payment for the first quarter. We will continue to work with landowners to help alleviate flooding concerns in the upcoming months. We receive an annual grant to complete our rat inspections along the Alberta-Saskatchewan border to ensure Alberta stays rat-free. We have completed our first round of inspections that included 506 feed sites, distributed bait, and had no signs of rats in the control zone. Our coyote and wolf program helps to reduce the risk of secondary poisoning on non-target animals with the usage of 1080 tablets. The first quarter, we received 483 coyotes and 11 wolves. The deregistration of 2% strychnine has reached its final stage as of March 4th. Strychnine can no longer be used. There are a few options available for the control of Richardson ground squirrels, which will include cultural, physical, and chemical control. For more information on these options, please contact us at the Ag Department. We have about 40 pieces of agricultural rental equipment available to rent, with 3 satellite locations strategically located within the MD. We have overhauled all the equipment and it's ready for this upcoming spring season. This year we upgraded our 30-foot land roller and one of the gas post pounders. The online purchases of our annual shelter belt program was a huge success again this year. Over 8,000 trees were purchased by landowners. Trees are going to be available for pickup for June 1st and 2nd. The Agricultural Service Board attended the annual conference in Grand Prairie and the Crossroad Conference in Edmonton this year. Alberta announced a $3.5 billion 5-year agreement for the Sustainable Agricultural Partnership Program to strengthen and grow Canada's agricultural sector. At the town hall meeting with the ADM, John Conrad, he announced that there is a top-up of our grant funding to pre-pandemic levels starting in 2023. Highlights during the ASB town hall meeting included cautioning of the avian flu as it's high risk for 2023. African swine fever was also on the agenda. And the other thing on the agenda was to close the gap with the AUC for solar wind farms being constructed on primary agricultural lands, with the possibility of opening up public lands for these facilities. Earlier this year, we hosted the Grazing School for Women Winter Workshop showcasing our local talent. We had more than 40 women attend this event in Flat Lake Hall. Finalizing my report, the seed plant held its AGM in February. 2 board members' terms had ended and were replaced by 2 new members. The seed plant has also implemented a new user fee for the use of the scale to increase their profitability. This concludes my report for the first quarter.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Yes, Councillor Slipchuk?
Yeah, you mentioned 60 premises of the avian flu. Was that in one area or was it spread out?
It was all of Alberta.
All of Alberta?
Yeah.
Okay. And then another question is the Sea Clean plant. What's the charge for the scale use and how do they monitor that after hours?
They've upgraded the program for the scale, so now companies can set up charge accounts, and I believe it's a $10 fee for the use of the scale if you're not using it for the seed plant business.
When you after hours, they'll have to have an account set up then?
Yeah,
Okay.
so there's a lot of hay haulers and cattle haulers that are using that scale, so they're implementing fees on it.
Okay, thank you.
Deputy Reid?
So the African swine fever, So how many hog producers do we have in the AMD, and that's something that should be concerned about?
We have a couple of them. The swine fever isn't in Canada right now, but they are expecting it because it is in Europe. So they are really gearing up in Ontario, making sure that we're going to be prepared in case it does come in.
So the hogs are gonna swim across and just, I don't know.
I guess, sorry. It's transmitted through soil, and there's a lot of farm workers that will work in Asia or in Europe and then come over to Canada to work during the farming season. So that's one way it
No,
can spread.
that's how the transfer
Yeah.
count, okay, sorry. Yeah, I couldn't resist that one. So on your wild boar, it's called program, we've seen no ears. How's the area been? Like, because I heard St. Paul might have had some wild boars, and like, have you heard anything about that?
We've heard lots of reports in the Elk Point area. Along the river they're running, and I believe that Alberta Ag is got trappers out there with live traps trapping these sounders.
Okay, super, thanks.
I think most of the ag producers know about the chemical, like where the shed is still open till the end of the year. I had a call the other day, so you can still bring your empties back to the Bonneville Seedling plant or to wherever you buy the chemical. Is that correct?
Correct. It'll go to the retailer after December 31st of this year. We'll keep it open till then.
Okay.
And then it goes back to the retailers and be accepting them.
Did
back.
we print that somewhere or just word of mouth, or how does that get out to our farmers this year?
I believe we've had it on the website, but I can definitely post it again.
Okay, could we put it in our little review there that goes out, or would
Yes,
that be a
absolutely.
possibility? So people aren't confused on that?
We'll get that done.
Because I think I was a little confused as well. so.
Okay.
Was it in the review already? All right, if we could put it in there one more time, if we have space. Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Okay, well, I'm looking for a motion then. Yes, thank you, Councillor Kraviak, for making a motion on behalf of council that council accepts the Agricultural Service 2023 first quarterly report as information. Any discussion on this, gentlemen? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. That's carried. On to 2.5? No, yes. Get you again, right on.
I'm not leaving now.
Okay.
As required by the province of Alberta, council is required to approve the appointment of an appeal board generated through the Ag Service Board on an annual basis. The appeal board panel shall hear and determine the appeal within 5 days of receipt of a notice of appeal. The appeal panel may confirm, rescind, or vary a notice given. The Alberta Pest Control Act Appeal Panel, Alberta Weed Control Act Appeal Panel, and Alberta Soil Conservation Act Appeal Panel will have the following members serving on each panel, being Guy Bonneau, Robert Chaloux, Alf Hurd, Alyssa Krawchuk, Forrest Persley, and Greg Schmier.
Okay, thank you. Yes?
I'll make that motion.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Crick, for making a motion on behalf of council that council approves appointing the following individuals to appeal panel as recommended by the Agricultural Service Board to act on behalf of the Alberta Pest Control Act, Alberta Weed Control Act, and the Alberta Soil Conservation Act. Mr. Guy, what's his name again? Bonneau, yep. Roger Chaloux, Alf Hurd, Alyssa Krawchuk, Forrest Persley, and Greg Schmier. Any discussion on this appointment motion? Okay, seeing none, I'll call for the vote. That's carried. Thank you. 9.2.6.
As required by the province of Alberta, council is required to approve the appointment of pest inspectors to enforce the Alberta Pest Control Act within the municipal district of Bonneville for the 2023 season. These pest inspectors will include Odette Gagnon, Emma Richard, Sarah Kroshar, Wanda Makarak, and Sonia Schmelzes, and I'm sorry about the last name.
That's
I don't know how
okay.
to say it.
I don't know how to say it either.
Sonia.
Anybody would like to make a motion on?
I'll make a motion to approve these pest inspectors.
All right. Thank you, Councillor Slipchik, for making a motion. On behalf of council, the council approves appointing the following pest inspectors for the 2023 season to enforce the Alberta Pest Control Act as required by the by the province of Alberta. Odette Gagne, Emma Richards, Sarah Kujar, Wanda Macrook, and Sonia, someone say her last name properly. There it is. Any discussion on this motion? Okay, seeing none, I'll call for the vote. And thank you, Mike, for saying that name properly. That's carried. Thank you. We get you one more yet?
One more.
Okay. 9.2.7. No? Yes?
As required by the province of Alberta, council is required to approve the appointment of weed inspectors to enforce the Alberta Weed Control Act within the municipal district of Bonnyville for the 2023 season. The weed inspectors for the 23 season will include Odette Gagnon, Emma Richard, Sarah Krushar, Wanda Makrak, and Sonia Schmelzizen.
All right. Thank you. Anybody like to make a motion? All right, thank you, Councillor Kraviak, for making a motion on behalf of council that council approves appointing the following weed inspectors for the 2023 season to enforce the Weed Control Act as required by the province of Alberta. It'll be the same group as the pest inspectors. So, any discussion on this motion? Yeah, go ahead.
I just got a question. Are all these inspectors residents of the MD?
I think
With the
they,
exception of one, but I think she's moved here for the summer.
Okay, just curious, thank you.
okay, any other discussion? Okay, I'll call for the vote. That's carried. Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Well, now we have an amendment to the agenda, 9.2.8, Cherry Grove. Is that correct?
Okay, morning, council.
Morning.
So, today, there was some questions on the Cherry Grove Fire Hall and the needs for fire hall, so discussion.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, this sad events kind of really led to highlight the lack of public safety that are in the hamlet, and it was pretty detrimental to watch, for people to drive up and watch the fire go down before the fire services got there. Yeah, I mean, it's really put a scare in all the residents there. And it's something that I've never experienced before, as far as people being scared to leave their homes. Unfortunately, the gentleman that was in charge of the fires, he did get released again. So we're still kind of, a lot of people are still concerned about that. So basically, I just want to alleviate the problem and get some sort of pricing of what a hall would cost like, and also like a water service, because we Coal Lake got there, they got there with the ladder truck and all that stuff, but we still had to send trucks from Iron River and LaCorey with water to get there. So it's one of those things where if it's a tower, if it's a tank, if it's a 10-inch water line, we need something there to provide that ease of service for the public that's there.
So, to our knowledge, yeah, the water is the main concern out in the Cherry Grove area, they don't have any underground aquifers that we know of. That would be the challenge. So administration can look into to this and bring back to council estimate on obviously fire hall, location-wise, and then what we would need for resources, for water resources and any other resources needed. So it'll take a little bit of time to pull it together, but administration can definitely look at that and bring back to council later on this summer.
Mr. Reid, members of council, I would suggest a motion directing administration to investigate the options and possibilities of a fire hall in Cherry Grove and have that information come to council the first meeting in August.
Okay, thank you. If you could kind of reach out to the hall, I know the last time we were talking with the hall, they were okay with donating part of their land to that, and I'm sure, because it's, you know, it's for the community, I'm sure they would do that as well. So yeah, it's needed. I think as far as the equipment, I mean, I know we spent on our fire services, you know, right when we got elected, $2.1 million on new apparatuses, and you know, there's one or two that are, you know, I know one that's going to be 13 years old. That's going to get, you know, possibly retired, and it's something we can use instead of buying new. It's something that we could use that we have already.
Yeah.
Right. So.
Yeah. Currently, we do have 2 fire trucks, 2 apparatuses that are being retired currently. So administration can discuss and obviously talk with the fire chief and see if the lifespan on those apparatuses are.
Well, yeah. Well, you know, like we read a report a few years back that the BRFA does an excellent job of maintaining their apparatuses. So I know if there's other communities that are waiting for those apparatuses, I mean, it should be a community it's in our jurisdiction, should be the first to have that chance to get them.
Mr. Reeve, to be realistic, if we came back at the meeting in August with some basic plans, and then it would end up in budget deliberations, we would likely not be talking about construction until this time of next year. Just so we all understand what that process would look like if it was eventually approved by council. Eventually, obviously, a fire hall would also have to be staffed, and that would be a BRFA responsibility in terms of the volunteer corps, and then obviously equipment that would go into that. So we'll bring back, in August, not just the price of the building and the water, but what it would cost to actually put a hall there with the requirements that a hall would have to have, you know, trucks, et cetera, and kind of build a whole package that council could review, and then if determined to move forward, then council could put that in budget deliberations for the 2024 budget.
Yeah,
That's
thanks.
fair.
Yeah, thanks for the clarification in regards to timelines and everything else. So for sure.
Councillor Slipchuk.
I know your request fire hall for Cherry Grove, which I think is long overdue, but not only at a fire hall, I thought there was talk previous about equipment storage too, where if we did the 2 together, a fire hall plus graders or equipment storage facility.
And that's kind of what
cover
kept
both at once.
Yeah, and that's what kind of kept kicking it down the line was, you know, we were looking for a grader shop as well, and the study came and the study went, and I don't think they still figured out where that grader shop was going to go, and that was one of the holdbacks to the hall. But I think right now, you know, we can't keep kicking down the line. You know, it's you know, like the psyche out there has changed so much as far as, you know, people are scared to leave their homes, and that is just not right.
Yes, Councillor Swaggart.
Yeah, I'm just suggesting that now you maybe start putting the word out and asking for volunteers and start, you know, maybe working with BRFA and get some training. You know, because you can build a hall, but man, you really need it. You know, it's hard to build a good team of volunteers, and yeah, so start now.
I
Maybe
think
put
that's
notifications out or something in our whatever we got for communications. Start putting some notifications out.
And I think that's a BRFA thing, and that's the last time I talked to the previous chief. That was, they were saying you're already putting the cart before the horse, and now we're going the other way. I think we build it when, with this event, has really raised awareness to, to that, and I'm sure we would have more than enough for staffing to do that, for sure.
And Mr. Riva, in terms of the fire hall itself, we have two very good examples of fairly new, but almost just brand-new fire halls. So if it was determined that there was no requirement for additional transportation equipment, graders, et cetera, I would suggest a design similar to the Fort Kent. It's not exactly the same as the Fort Kent Hall. And if there is a requirement for transportation equipment, then something similar or exactly the same as the Ardmore Hall. So we have plans already for those halls. It would be a fairly simple exercise to turn that into a building. The harder question, obviously, in Cherry Grove is going to be water and how we resource the water and how water ends up at a hall and then subsequently ends up in a truck. So, but we could fairly quickly put together plans on a building, price out a building. We have two new buildings. We know what they cost. So there's some estimates that can be made from the two fire halls that were just completed last year.
Yeah, thanks. The water thing, there was a fire there about a year and a half ago, and the City of Cold Lake Fire Department was looking for a quick connect, and happened to see them driving around and told them that there's no such thing. So yeah, it's water is a big issue.
Yes, Councillor Slipchak.
So, well, we got to look, like you want the BRFA to look for volunteers, so we got 3 council members that are actively on BRFA. They can bring it to their next meeting and discuss and get this ball rolling. Because I think it's long overdue since Cherry Grove's had a fire hall.
Any other comments?
Mr. Reeve, I would suggest that probably that conversation with BRFA should be had sooner than later. If the fire authority indicates that there is no ability to provide volunteers in the area, I think we would be ill-advised
for sure
to start looking at spending money on infrastructure if there's no volunteers. Or is there a location that would be better? Administration certainly supports a fire hall in the area, but we don't provide the staffing for that fire hall, and I think we need to know whether there's potential for volunteers as opposed to just building it and hope they will come.
So what did the BFR do before? I wasn't on. Did they go have a thing at Cherry Grove and nobody attended, or what happened there?
Never even went that far.
Okay, so why didn't it go that far?
I don't know, the chief's not here to answer that.
Okay, well, you were on the board.
I asked for it.
Okay, so do you go start doing it, or
it was
there's 3 of us at that time, did you, the 3 of you guys go to Cherry Grove and have a meeting on that, or?
No, we did not.
Okay. Yes, go ahead.
Just kind of knowing a bit about fire halls and volunteers and stuff, I don't know if it's really not just kind of, you don't just say to the BRFA chief, we need volunteers.
Sure. Yeah.
As a fire chief, I've had to go door to door and ask new people into the community, and
but there is no fire chief there. That's
well, there, but what I'm saying now is maybe Councillor or Deputy Refadev knows of somebody who might be willing to take that task on in Cherry Grove and do the door to door thing and try to get as many people out as you can, and that's how you do it. And then we advertise, and this thing that's coming up in Ardmore with the emergency services groups, maybe somebody sets up a table there from Cherry Grove and says, here we're sort of looking toward this, who's interested, and
I can pretty well assure you that by August 9th, I'll have more than enough people on the list for that.
So do you think we should have like Cherry Grove Community Hall have a function with the BFRA and some council?
Yeah, I mean, it's I think it's up to BRFA to do that. I don't know where the line is. I mean, is it,
I don't know where the line is either.
Yeah,
That's what I'm asking.
for the community, I can tell you right now, for the amount of calls I received, I mean, there's, you know, it's more than enough. There's, on the, next Saturday, there's a meet and greet happening in Cherry Grove, and I can get a, you know, pen and paper out there and find out who will sign to be there and
Yep.
do the call out for that.
Okay, well, we sit on the board, I know I do, and I'm a deputy, you know, I'm the deputy chair right now, so we'll bring it, next time we have a meeting, we'll bring it, we'll just add it to the agenda, and then we'll see where it goes, and then we'll bring back a report.
Yeah, like I say, I can contact the hall and do the shout out out there and
Okay.
get some names on paper.
Very good. You got that, Josh?
Is there something we could put on the rural review even to notify, say, hey, we're looking for volunteers for Ardmore, maybe would help and have a.
Not Ardmore.
Cherry Grove.
Yeah,
and
we'll
have
do
a
it faster
meeting?
through the community group there, that's there, the Ag Society. They're unfortunate, they, one of their stands at the rodeo grounds got lit on fire last year, by the same guy that lit up the church. So, I think they're very well motivated.
Mr. Reeve, I would just add that the Regional Fire Authority is the lead in terms of the volunteers. And I would suggest that if we're going to get into the advertising end, looking for volunteers for Cherry Grove, that it
That's
should.
not good.
Well, it should also be done with whatever advertising and however, we certainly would support BFRA's efforts
Yeah.
in terms of finding volunteers. But I don't want to get the cart before the horse. The MD is looking for volunteers, and we
Yeah.
find out that our advertising runs slightly contradictory to.
So we need the BFRA to talk to the MD before we do any kind of.
That would be my recommendation. We
I think
absolutely
that's
work
fair.
together, provide rural review, our social media.
Yeah.
Absolutely, 100%. I
If they
just
a-
want to make sure that,
If they ask us to.
absolutely.
Okay, that's fair. I think that's fair.
I mean, I kind of like, you know, I agree, but also I respected the process last time and didn't go anywhere. So is there any harm for me getting names?
I don't think there's any harm in anything.
Okay.
I don't know what happened in the process before, so I can't speak to it. I have no idea.
And Mr. Reeve, my only concern is that we put out an ad saying the MD of Bonneville is looking for volunteer firefighters for Cherry Grove. It looks like it's the MD as opposed
Yes.
to the Bonneville Regional Fire Authority.
Yes.
And I don't want to put out an ad saying the Bonneville Regional Fire Authority is looking for volunteers when I have no authority to do that on behalf of the Bonneville Regional Fire Authority. So I think we have to work together in
But-
terms of putting out some, and that can be done fairly quickly. I know, I think even as early as today and over the course of the next 3 or 4 days, we can probably meet with Chief Heaney
Yeah.
and have those conversations. So long
Maybe we
as it's a
should, I don't
coordinated
know,
effort.
when's our next meeting? I think we could do something before the next meeting. Yeah, it is, right? Next Thursday, right? We should do something before that. I think where Deputy Reeve Fideo is going is like, I know there's a bit of a community there, and they do have a little bit of a page, I think, and you could probably reach out through their community, whatever they have, some kind of a Facebook page or something that you guys could just kind of start the ball rolling,
Yeah.
is what you want to do, I think.
Yeah, there's going to be a meet and greet, and a lot of the community is going to be there, and
But I think we can reach out to Dan Heaney in the next couple of days and have his opinion as well, and then I'm sure he's not opposed to anything to going forward. Next Thursday off, Mike? Okay. Any other comments or questions? All right, thank you so much for that. Have a great day. What's that?
I'll make that motion.
Did I already say that?
No, I don't think we did.
No? Okay. All right, thank you, Deputy Reeve Fideo, for making a motion on behalf of council. The council directs administration to bring back options for a fire hall in the hamlet of Cherry Grove to the August 22nd, 2023 regular meeting of council as discussed. Any discussion on this motion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. That's carried. Thank you. Okay. I guess we'll break for lunch, ladies and gentlemen.